by Her Excellency, the Governor of Goa, and then followed by the Honorable Minister of External Affairs. So that's the sequence we have. So Swamiji will speak first.
Namaste to everyone, especially to Sushmaji. I have been listening a few sessions I attended, listening to various people on various topics. A lot of them made statements as though they are true. Water flows, finding its own level. It is a proved fact, known fact. It's true. Bhagavad Gita talks about one thing, is a thing to be inquired into. The statement cannot be absolute. Words like religion, spirituality, mean differently to different people. When I say pumpkin, everybody understands. The same way, when I say religion, each one understands in his or her own way. Therefore, it is not right to talk about these words as though they are understood the same way by all. So to God, unless it is inquired into, the concept is inquired into and understood properly by the speaker and the listener. Both of them understand there is communication. We need communication. There should be a certain commitment to communicate properly. This one thing I noticed, and therefore this particular lack I noticed. Therefore I, in my concluding speech, point out. There was talk about violence. There are different shades of violence, different kinds of violence. There can be a violent look. There can be a violent word. That which hurts is violence. In Sanskrit it is called himsa. Anything that hurts another person is violence. I say there is an omission to point out religious conversion is violence. If somebody comes back to his original religion, that's not violence. That is homecoming. But with a program for proselytization, there is conversion, and it is considered freedom of religion. I say it is violence against culture, against religion, against the soul of the person, against the family, against the community. It is rank violence. It is. Conversion is violence with a program, targeted community. There is a program of conversion, and that is violence. We have to raise our voice against this religious conversion. It is the most violent act. And it can attract violence also. Because people don't like it. Because it hurts. And therefore it can attract violence. So we breed violence. And they say that it is our freedom. Your freedom ends where my freedom to practice my religion begins. There is no freedom. There is no absolute freedom. That is only moksha. There is no absolute freedom. We have in the panel people who can help in making a law against conversion, planned conversion. One more thing I noticed, there should be an emphasis on universal values. I don't want to get hurt. Nobody wants to get hurt. An animal doesn't want to get hurt. This is common sense. Born knowledge is ahimsa. If a cow is cornered, it may attack the person. In the attack, if the person is hurt, cow is not going to regret. Cow is not going to feel guilty. Because cow knows that only one thing, that I should not get hurt. It doesn't seem to know that the others also don't want to get hurt. But a human being has the common sense to recognize that I don't want to get hurt and others also don't want to get hurt. This is the basic, universal value called ahimsa. You call it in any other name, It is ahimsa. This is not emphasized. If the person who is hurt doesn't belong to my religion, doesn't accept my religion, it is okay. That means there is no universal value. Universal value is ahimsa. That is the basic value out of which are other values derived. Robbing hurts. Cheating hurts. Lying hurts. And therefore, all of them are derivations of ahimsa. All other values. Therefore, the Vedic statement, ahimsa paramo dharma. Ahimsa is the primary value. Paramo dharma. Therefore, I would suggest in your next meet, keep ahimsa as the topic, as the primary topic. You can have other topics. It's not an absolute value, but it is a universal value. I don't know how many minutes I have to talk. With these words, I would like to congratulate the organizers. The experience gained in this meet will definitely help us organize the next meet with a better plan in terms of the topics that we are going to select. Thank you all. Om Tat Sat.
Respected Swamiji, my dear Susmaji, and the young minister and one of the organizers, Sri Jayant Sinhaji, all the dignitaries, all the delegates coming from all parts of the India and all parts of the world also. The conclave started yesterday. Today I was thinking that I should have come on the inaugural session to welcome you all. As I am the first citizen of Goa, I should have come first to welcome you. But now, saying you goodbye, I invite you again and again to come stay in Goa. The nature has given this a beautiful size and beautiful look. So by saying you goodbye, I invite you for Goa also. After the inspiring pravachan of Swamiji, I was hearing him and I had forgot that I have to speak something. Actually, he has given the theme for next, and that is ahimsa. We all know that this ahimsa is in the heart of our country. I can't say him thanks, but मैं उन्हें प्रणाम करती हूँ पैर छूकर. 2 days conclave on the idea of India or India idea. Now the India is on the verge where the people are thinking of what to do next. The government, the industrialist, the educationist, everywhere, even the students are thinking that now the government has changed, and everywhere the positive ideas are coming. People want to do something. Even the common people want to do something for the nation. And at this juncture, India Foundation has did this vital work. India Foundation invited people, thinkers, educationists, planners, academicians from everywhere. I can see the faces of the people. I know somebody. I know that they are always giving the ideas, the good ideas, the innovative ideas to society, to governments. But all over the world, people are seeing at India. India will come out with new plans for education, for economic development, and for society, for human beings. All know that ours is a very ancient and great history. And we are in villages also. I come from village and always remember the village life. I always say that the slokas, the mantras in our shastras, they all are translated into the folk songs. You will be surprised to know how our illiterate people were, while worshipping the Surya, Chand, Tara, Prithvi, Gau, and Ganga, they gave value to all these things. And they knew the value of all these things. And now, when India is going ahead and India is in 21st century, we have to go for a new development. I always say that the present is the fruit of past and seed of the future. So I am proud that the seeds of development, the seeds of thoughts of developments have been gathered here in Goa. So whenever India Foundation will invite you people and others also, Goa will be on their tongue. Again, goodbye to all, an invitation to come to Goa. You will like Goa. I came here 3 months before. I was very much afraid. I thought I was living in Delhi. I come from Bihar, from village, and here only I would have to see only sea and sea and sea. But now I love Goa. I love Goans. I love sea. I love trees. And I love you people also. Thanks.
Madam Chair, the Honorable Governor of Goa, Param Pujya Swami Ji, Swami Dayanand Saraswati Ji, my colleague in the Council of Ministers, Shri Jayant Sinha, distinguished participants, Excellencies, and my dear brothers and sisters. It is a privilege to be invited to deliver the valedictory address to this distinguished audience under the auspices of the India Ideas Conclave. I'm sorry I could not be present from the start of this conclave, which I very much wanted to. But I'm happy that I could attend at least the last session and hear 5 distinguished speakers from various parts of the world. The India Ideas Conclave has brought together under one roof brilliant thinkers from around the world, and just the ability to draw upon the combined intellectual capital of this gathering makes this a unique platform to discuss cutting-edge ideas, concepts, and trends. I'm especially interested in the central theme of the conclave, that is, integral human development. Friends, when we talk of human development in the 21st century, it not only means better education, health, or well-being, it also means improving the quality and skills of people so that they are able to live up to their full potential. Equally, no discussion of human development can be complete without taking into account the dreams and aspirations of the 1.25 billion people of India who constitute 1/6 of humanity. Friends, the setting for our discussions could not have been more beautiful and tranquil than Goa. But I hardly need remind any one of you that we are meeting at a time of great disturbance in the world, and particularly in our neighborhood. The massacre of more than 130 innocent school children by the Taliban in Pakistan on December 16 and the earlier shootout in Sydney are grave reminders that terrorism remains the single biggest threat to open liberal societies. The threat posed by terrorism and violent extremism is neither constrained by international borders nor limited to any single ideology. Groups like the Taliban, IS, and Boko Haram are waging war on humanity itself. It is at a time like this that the civilizational legacy of India can provide a new way to the barbaric and to the barbarity being practiced by terrorist groups. Friends, I would like to offer my thoughts on some of the key concepts which have defined India's place in the world and which can provide a model for harmony and coexistence. The first of these is undoubtedly democracy. When India became independent in 1947, it was a land of desolate poverty and pervasive social inequality. 200 years of foreign rule had reduced it from being one of the largest economies of the world to one of the poorest countries. we inherited an economy that had grown at an annual pace of just 0.7%. In the previous 50 years, less than the rate of population increase. We had entirely missed the first industrial revolution. We had an adult literacy rate of 14% and average life expectancy of just 33 years. In addition, the country was beset with both social and political fragmentation. Yet, in the face of such odds, India decided to opt for a political model offering universal adult franchise and a constitution that not only safeguarded fundamental rights and freedoms, but also granted equal rights to all its citizens and ensured that there would be no discrimination on ground of caste, creed, religion, or gender. Given the experience of almost every other post-colonial country with constitutional change, this decision was a revolutionary one and much ahead of its time. Let us not forget that universal suffrage came to most Western democracies only after the Industrial Revolution, which meant that the poor got the right to vote only after those societies had become relatively rich. Today, India is proud to be described as the largest democracy in the world and be counted among the few countries which gained independence in the mid-20th century, to have sustained an unbroken democratic tradition. If India had chosen not to become a democracy in 1947, the history of the world would have been very different. It is because of India's choices almost 7 decades ago that democracy has become a global norm today. But friends, democracy cannot be sustained by voting alone. Its successful exercise requires strong and enduring institutions, an independent judiciary, a free press, laws and procedures ensuring checks and balances, and the development of a parliamentary structure whose essence is the accountability of those in authority to the ordinary citizens of the country. Above all, it requires the infusion of a democratic temperament and spirit among the citizens. They must become aware of both their rights as individuals and their responsibilities and obligations as citizens. This is what defines India, that even a simple farmer knows the value of the vote and exercises that power at the election time. The entire world watched when India went to polls earlier this year, the largest democratic exercise in history, with an electorate of more than 814 million people and deployment of more than 10 million officials. The average election turnout was more than 66%, the highest ever in the history of Indian general elections, showing that even the poorest of the poor chose to exercise the power of the ballot. The elections led to a historic mandate for the NDA government on a platform of pro-people good governance. The programs and policies followed by the government since then have already restored global confidence in India, with the stock market touching record highs, inflation declining to record lows, GDP growth showing early signs of recovery, foreign investors flocking to India, and a renewed interest on the part of manufacturers to make in India. We have set new milestones and reached new frontiers in India's foreign policy by moving with extraordinary speed and resolve to rebuild our partnerships across the world. We are also enlarging the field of India's soft power, as the recent adoption by the United Nations of June 21 as the International Day of Yoga, with a record 177 countries as co-sponsors, demonstrated. Indeed, at a time of uncertainty and turbulence in the world, the new government in India, led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is seen as one of the bright spots. There is unprecedented optimism about India's rapid progress under the Prime Minister's leadership, and widespread expectation of effective and meaningful contribution from India for advancing peace, stability, and prosperity in the world. India's example shows that democracy and development can go together, that human development is incomplete without human freedom. Only a government of the people, by the people, and for the people can provide them both opportunity and dignity. There are some who say that democracy is slow, that it does not have pace. To them, I would like to say, yes, democracy may not give pace, but it provides space. space for each and every citizen to grow and pursue the goals so nobly stipulated in our Constitution: justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. And we have seen what happens to countries which do not provide that space. The people spill out in the streets, and their anger destroys governments and at times wrecks the country itself. This brings me to my second concept, that is diversity. As a grassroots politician, I have had the good fortune of traveling throughout the length and breadth of India, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari and from Kandla to Kohima. And what has impressed me most deeply is the sheer diversity of our country. Every 200 kilometers or so, the dialect changes, the dress changes, and the food changes. Which other country in the world can boast of 22 official languages, 780 spoken languages, and more than 800 dialects? All the world's major religions are practiced and respected in India. Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and Sikhism were born here, while Islam, Christianity, Judaism, and Zoroastrianism were brought by the settlers. Throughout our history, people from different parts of the world have come to India and made it their home. The symbiotic relationship between host and guest countries is well illustrated by the case of the numerical small Parsi community. The only surviving followers of Zoroastrianism in the world, the Parsis, landed on the coast of Gujarat early in the 8th century AD, fleeing religious persecution from Iran. Legend has it that they sent a delegation to the local ruler requesting permission to settle. In reply, the ruler sent a vessel filled to the brim with water, indicating that his land could hold no more. The leader of the Parsis returned the vessel with a leaf floating on the water. So impressed was the ruler with the subtle wit and wisdom of this gesture that he relented, allowing the Parsi community to settle and thrive in India. India was also invaded a number of times, yet successive waves of invasion could not supplant the existing indigenous culture. In fact, the invaders got assimilated into the cultural fabric of India. That is why India is the oldest continuous civilization on the planet, with a history going back 5,000 years. Even today, you can hear the same chants and hymns that our ancestors used to recite during Vedic times. Most of the old civilizations of the world are dead and gone. India has not only survived the vicissitudes of time, but maintained, developed, and enriched a continuous culture. The genius of India lies in its ability to absorb and encompass the many cultures with which it has come into contact with. At the same time, it has allowed these cultures to flourish as distinct entities based on the principle of unity in diversity. The Indian national anthem is itself a good example of this. Punjab, Sindh, Gujarat, Maratha, Dravid, Utkal, Banga. All are referred to in the same verse, emphasizing the oneness of India as an amalgam of geographic regions, ethnicities, and cultures. Indeed, the British historian E.P. Thompson wrote that this successful management of diversity is what makes India perhaps the most important country for the future of the world. But what is it that has made this diversity possible and allowed it to flourish? I believe that it has to do with two very important concepts that India has always been known for, and they are tolerance and non-violence. Swamiji, I am picking up the thread from your speech. Non-violence has been one of the core tenets of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. The Mahabharata has multiple mentions of the phrase Ahimsa Paramo Dharma, which Swamiji said, which literally means non-violence is the highest moral virtue. In Jainism, the understanding and implementation of Ahimsa is more radical, scrupulous, and comprehensive than in any other religion. Non-violence is seen as the most essential religious duty for everyone. Jains go out of their way so as not to hurt even small insects and other minuscule animals. Additionally, they consider harsh words to be a form of violence, which Swamiji said. Jain monks often keep a cloth to ritually cover their mouth as a reminder not to allow violence in their speech. In Buddhism, the principle mutated from kill not to love all. Buddha said, love all, so that you may not wish to kill any. This is a positive way of stating the principle of ahimsa. Like the Jains, Buddhists have always condemned the killing of any living being. In the 19th and 20th centuries, prominent figures of Indian spirituality, such as Swami Vivekananda, Raman Maharshi, and Swami Shivananda, emphasized the importance of ahimsa. But it was Mahatma Gandhi who elevated it to a political philosophy. In his own words, non-violence is mightier than the mightiest weapon of destruction devised by the ingenuity of man. As his grandson Arun Gandhi put it, Gandhi provided theoretical and practical arguments against violence and for non-violence. And he also bequeathed a tradition of active non-violence. He saw life as sacred and life as one. To kill was unholy and also partly suicidal. Why suicidal? If all life was one, a bit of you was killed too if you killed another. Also, violence invoked the beast in the attacker and the attacked and was a regressive force in human history. This is best encapsulated in Gandhi's own phrase, an eye for an eye only ends up making the whole world blind. Gandhi's concept of peace was embedded in the matrix of tolerance and pluralism. As he said, I quote, I do not want to stay in a house with all its windows and doors shut. I want a house with all its windows and doors open, where the cultural breezes of all lands and nations blow through my house, but I refuse to be blown off my feet by any. This openness to other cultures, while being firmly rooted in one's own, is the only antidote to the pernicious doctrine of clash of civilizations. Just as Gandhi emphasized non-violence, Swami Vivekananda emphasized the virtues of tolerance. He recognized that pluralism was the backbone of our national existence and said that India stood for the grand idea of universal toleration. He was echoing an idea which has resonated throughout Indian history and philosophy. The Vedas, dating back to 3000 years, proclaim Ekam Sad Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. Truth is one, the wise call it by many names. The Rig Veda, considered the oldest, similarly teaches that good thoughts come to us from all sides. Indian tolerance has also manifested in the country's society and polity. The edicts of Emperor Ashoka, who ruled much of north and central India in the 3rd century BC, are notable for their accommodation of other faiths, proclaiming, for instance, that all religions should reside everywhere and that there should be growth in the essentials of all religions. Friends, India is one of the few countries without a history of anti-Semitism, despite the presence of Jewish community that dates back almost 2000 years. Sikhism is also based on the belief of the validity of all religions. As the Guru said, Ek Noor te sab jag upja, kaun pale ko mande. From this one light, the entire universe has welled up. So who is good and who is bad? Kabir also represented this philosophy in the Sufi tradition. There can be no doubt that India's tradition of tolerance, synthesis, and the ability to live with seeming contradictions has provided fertile soil for democracy to thrive and for different faiths to coexist. These 4 concepts, democracy, diversity, non-violence, and tolerance, should become an integral part of our toolbox for solving present-day conflicts. They have the power to blunt the sharp edges of ethnic nationalism and religious chauvinism, which fuel most of the conflicts in the world today. There are 2 images of 9/11. One of the trail of destruction in 2001, and the other, the message of tolerance and harmony given by Swami Vivekananda on September 11, 1893 in Chicago. Swami Vivekananda began his address to the World Parliament of Religions by stating, I am quoting, I am proud to belong to a religion which has taught the world both tolerance and universal acceptance. We believe not only in universal toleration, but we accept all religions as true. I am proud to belong to a nation which has sheltered the presented and the refugees of all religions and all nations of the earth, unquote. Had we followed Swamiji's message, history would never have witnessed such dastardly acts as we saw on 11th September 2001 in the United States, and which we continue to witness from Sydney to Peshawar. It would be fitting, therefore, for me to conclude with a saying of Swami Vivekananda, "We are what our thoughts have made us." So, take care about what you think. Words are secondary. Thoughts live, they travel far. I am sure that over the last 2 days of deliberations, the India Ideas Conclave has come with a number of thoughts and ideas to effect practical and positive change. May these thoughts travel far and wide to build a better India and a better world. I conclude this conclave by a very pious wish. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani paschyantu, ma kaschid dukha bhavet. All should remain happy, all should remain healthy, all should see goodness. Nobody should experience the pain. Thank you.